Now, I want to give you just a little rundown on what you're walking into. It's too late for you to leave. I mean, enrolled. You know, it's quite customary for somebody to say, well, if you don't like this, you're here on your self-determinism and all that sort of thing, and you don't like this, why, it's volunteer, you know, and you can leave and so forth. We don't do that around here. You're in, you're done. So, we just close the gates right at that point. Once an auditor recognizes that he has authority and control over the minds of his pre-clears and human beings, he doesn't even vaguely think in terms of restimulation or needing processing. That I guarantee. You see that? If you know absolutely by your own experience that you can change the mental outlook of human beings, you're not going to worry about them restimulating you.
So let's just knock it out right now that the largest percentage of your pre-clears are going to be able to follow orders because you're getting very large number of that 10% in the auditing chair. You're getting people who are sick. If somebody's sick, somehow or another, he can't follow orders. Follow me? So we're going to discover that this is the biggest jump you're going to get them across. It isn't that it's a good thing to follow orders, but it's a very bad thing to have to resist them. You see that? It's an entirely different thing. We don't want to make a slave out of this pre-clear. If we did, we could dream up processes that would have him in a state of any citizen in the country. The auditor tells the pre-clear, all right, go over and take a look at that wall. Pick out a spot on it. Got it? All right, go over and touch it. Fine. Pick out another spot on it. Touch it. That would be the most elementary command. And by the way, the most elementary thing here is the best thing. Now, when he's done that for a long time, you know, told him to pick out a spot and touch it, and told him to pick out another spot and touch it, and told him to pick out another spot and touch it. Then he says, all right, pick out a spot on that wall. Go over and touch it. Okay. And he shifts over to C, you see. And he says, all right, now make up your mind when you're going to touch it, and touch it. Now don't let go of it. Make up your mind when you're going to touch it and touch it. Okay, now make up your mind when you're going to let go of it and let go of it. Bang, bang. Pretty clear, we'll do this. All right, pick out another spot somewhere in the room. Good. Now make up your mind when you're going to touch it. Touch it. Make up your mind when you're going to let go of it now. Let go of it. Okay. Okay? That's all there is to it. So anybody that tells you, by the way, that either HC or opening procedure by duplication is an effort to make slaves out of people, you say, what do you think we are, a bunch of amateurs? You know, if we wanted to make slaves out of people, we'd probably start with you. Boy, what couldn't we do? We would simply include all of psychiatry into our practices as one measure. Well, that is the simplest look at HC, the simplest rationale behind it. Get the pre-clear to follow orders. You know, they say a place called hell is one of the most beautifully paved areas anywhere. And the most gorgeous paving. Its paving is made exclusively out of good intentions. Isn't that right? Well, what good is a good intention if it can't be executed as an order? Well, I'll give you some kind of an idea of this. I would say that you might be able to get an idea by the fact that we are giving auditors who are going to be giving intensives and directions, instructions on this of about 15 hours of HC on a pre-clear. And of those 15 hours, of course, we would break down parts A and B and C more or less as we wish, but certainly it would be 5, 5, and 5. You see, 5 hours of A before you would go on to B, and then 5 hours of B before you went on to C. At least that. Almost as though we were sitting there saying, come up to present time, come up to present time, come up to present time. 15 hours. But why put it into a symbol? because symbols themselves are what are misunderstood. So we just bypass symbol. So if we're bypassing symbols, then please don't introduce any further significance into this thing. Don't make the process significant, because that's what the process is designed to do, is to bypass all these symbolic manifestations and bypass all possible meaning, and simply reduce the order down to one of the most obvious things. The only symbol in it is the auditor is saying, touch the wall. Now, as an auditor, I normally audit by pointing myself. See, I say something, but I tell the pre-clear, pointing, you see that spot over there? All right, you, pointing at him, go over and touch it. I use my hands as directors. And the only thing he has to be alert to in the form of symbols is I'm making a noise, which means he's supposed to do something. And I'm showing him almost graphically on a mimicry basis. I point to the wall, the point on the wall, I point to the pre-clear, and then point to him going over to the wall. In other words, strip the symbols out of that line. Good trick, isn't it? You've told this person repeatedly, now you see the right wall over there? Now walk over to it and touch a spot in the center of the wall. And the person looks at it and he discusses it with you. You say, no, walk over and touch the point in the middle of the wall. He'll discuss it with you. You say, you, with your body, with hand signals you're making, you see, with your body, walk over and touch the wall over there. Now, with an insane patient one day, this person's really gone. We're not talking about everybody who is insane should have this wrong. This is not a psychotic technique. This is not a psychotic technique. It happens to be so rock bottom it will even catch psychotics. That's the difference, see? I finally walked over to this psycho, and I picked him up off the bed very gently, and I pushed him over to the wall, and I put his finger on the wall and took his finger off of the wall. And turned him around to the opposite wall, and walked him across the opposite wall, and touched his finger to the wall, and took his finger off the wall, and all of a sudden he kind of woke up. And there you were. The next time he did it, I didn't have to give him any more than a little push on the shoulder, pointing at a spot. It was fabulous, but in about 2 or 3 minutes, I had this fellow capable of following an auditing order. And then we went right ahead and we kept telling him spots on the wall. He kept following them. And he was sort of in a trance, and he kept coming out of this trance a little bit more, and up to present time a little bit more. Well, don't expect for a moment that your pre-clear is going to simply do this without thinking any thoughts or anything of the sort. But the truth of the matter is he's not supposed to think while he's doing this. But you don't have to tell him this. But if you catch him doing too much communication like, or too much figure, you know, tell him, don't think about it, just do it. Now, a lot of variations occur on this that auditors use every once in a while. They have an individual predict that the doorknob is going to be there for 10 seconds, count off 10 seconds, and then go over and check to see if the doorknob's still there. They use a present time manifestation and put it into the future. Most of your boys are not going to be capable of understanding or appreciating that. Just plain HC is best. That's a good gag, though, isn't it? The fellow is insecure. He doesn't think the world's going to be here in 10 seconds. It's a good gag. It works on a lot of pre-clears. Another one that would be apparently is workable, actually is not quite as workable, it'd be to ask somebody to touch the wall and then stand there and wait for something to happen. And you see after a while nothing is going to happen, but the funny part of it is plain HC is better. Plain HC is a better process, because you're adding significance into the line. Another thing is you don't want the past auditing command to carry over. You've told him, walk over and put your finger on the wall. Now the next time you might say, all right, now that spot over on that wall. Now you're asking this fellow to remember your former auditing command and add to it. And that is a big auditor error. Even if I do it, it's an error. You see that? That's a big error. To give him an understood part of the order. Give him the whole order newly each time. Walk over to that spot on the wall and put your finger on it. See? Now don't add, now this spot. See, he has to remember And you put him into the past just to that degree, haven't you? Memory is always past. See, you say, all right, now that spot. You expect him to walk over and touch that wall there. No, you wouldn't say, now that spot. You'll catch yourself doing this, and you have to think about this for a while to really get it. You have to say to him, now you, see, walk over to that spot and put your finger on it. Never give him a carryover, something he has to remember from the past to now perform in the present. You simply give him the order freshly, newly, every time. And the first thing you know, every second starts to be separate from every other second in this man's life.
It's too late for you to leave. I mean, you're old. You know, it's quite customary for somebody to say, well, if you don't like this, you're here on your self-determinism and all that sort of thing, and you don't like this, why, it's volunteer, you know, and you can leave and so forth. We don't do that around here. You're in, you're done. So we just close the gates right at that point.